On the Palos Verdes Peninsula lies a remarkable example of the power of nature. It's called the Portuguese Bend Landslide, and for 30 years it has defied scientists, geologists, and governments as it inches toward the Pacific Ocean. There's a new plan to stop the slide by moving 1 million tons of earth. Daal Praderas has the details.
This is a cross-section of the Portuguese Bend Landslide in Rancho Palos Verdes. The peninsula actually features 4 landslides. North of the Portuguese Bend is the Abalone Cove landslide. South of it is the Klondike Canyon slide. And to the southeast, the Rolling Hills Flying Triangle. For 30 years now, the centermost slide, Portuguese Bend, has been moving, sometimes as fast as 7 inches a day. Currently, the slide is creeping towards the Pacific at roughly 1 inch per day. The slide began moving in 1956. At that time, the active area of the slide contained 160 homes. Over the next decade, 128 of these homes were destroyed by land movement. Millions of dollars were spent by private individuals and companies on studies aimed at stopping the slide, all to no avail. 3 years ago, a group of prominent geologists and engineers began developing a plan to halt the Portuguese Bend landslide. The 5-part plan calls for dewatering wells to remove lubricating water in the central and eastern portions of the slide, surface drainage to carry surface water over the slide in several areas, earth movement and grading to relocate dirt from the top of the slide area to the foot, realignment of Palos Verdes Drive South, and seawalls and breakwaters in the coastal portion to reduce wave erosion and buttress the toe of the slide. If these projects are carried out to their completion, the price tag would exceed $40 million. Although it's an ambitious plan, the city has been successful in obtaining $2 million in grant money from the state of California. Jim Ishibashi's father established this farm near the turn of the century. Jim works the fields, while his wife Annie runs a popular roadside produce stand on Palos Verdes Drive South. During the first year of the city's project, thousands of tons of dirt will be moved from the top of the slide to relieve some of the pressure on the slide plane. That dirt will be dumped right here, on the Ishibashi strawberry field. The Ishibashis are a local institution, and city officials recognize that. Mayor Douglas Hinchliff.
The facts of the matter are that both Jim and Ann Ishibashi have been members of this community long before the city of Rancho Palos Verdes was ever formed. The peninsula in general is very fond of the products which Mr. Ishibashi farms and produces and sells at his stand. And from a practical political point of view, we would alienate a lot of not only our own residents, but a lot of residents on the peninsula if we just simply put Mr. Ishibashi out of business.
Despite the uncertainty of the situation, the Ishibashis vow to stay in business.
I would like to stay on the farm as long as I can, so long as I'm able to work in the field and see the nature grow.
So you're still going to keep the fruit stand open, whether they move you or not, the farm?
Oh, yes, because they said if I move, they're going to move, follow me wherever I go. But I'm going to keep this place.
There are others who have reason to be concerned about the city's plan. In the second year of the project, Palos Verdes Drive South will be realigned to its original pre-slide location. Unfortunately, 2 homes now sit where the middle of the road used to be, directly in the path of the realignment. 2 other homes are located where the city plans to dump thousands of tons of dirt from the top of the slide. These 4 homes would either be relocated or torn down as a result of the city's plan.
The yellow and orange marks here represent, the yellow represents where houses were in 1956, and the orange depicts these same 4 houses, these 2 houses being here and these 2 houses being here, where they are today, or were in 1984 when this topo was flowing, the fall of '84. We will be disrupting this area because the road is now down here. We'll be moving it back here. We have a substantial amount of fill to go in this area here, simply because in this area the slide plane is slanting back, sloping back away from the ocean, so it's an ideal place.
homeowners naturally fear they won't receive a fair value for their homes.
That's a difficult issue. You know, we are trying to put the road back in its legal right-of-way, which we think is in the best interest of the community and an area that is defined legally where the road is supposed to go. Unfortunately, a couple of people's houses have slid into that right-of-way, and we will have an appraisal done, and we will try to settle on a fair and equitable basis, but whether or not he would get a fair value is a question of time. I mean, maybe in 10 years, if we're successful in stopping the slide and the area is worth a lot more money, then maybe he won't get a fair value. But if right now he tried to sell his house, I think he would get a fair value.
After 30 years of sliding, why does the city now want to take on a costly, potentially fruitless project to halt the slide? Some critics argue the city wants to stop or at least slow down the slide in order to lift the building moratorium and generate new tax revenue.
It's just simply not true. The city embarked on this effort because of the road, and the road was costing the city an incredible amount of money. Part of the plan to deal with the road was a redevelopment agency, and it was simply a tool in the tool bag. One way you finance redevelopment agencies is through tax increment financing. And we said, gee, if we're successful in slowing or stopping this slide down, that is going to have an impact on the value of the property. We ought to share in that increase through the tax increment. It's as simple as that. It's not a ploy on the part of the city to go in and develop areas that were never slated for development, or for that matter to allow development on the active slide, which is not at all or ever has been the intention of the city.
In fact, city officials claim it would be both fiscally and politically irresponsible not to combat the slide. The annual cost of maintaining Palos Verdes Drive South has skyrocketed in the past 10 years. In fiscal 1984 alone, the city spent nearly $250,000 on upkeep of the street. The cost of maintaining Palos Verdes Drive South has increased 6 times faster than the cost of maintaining all streets. Palos Verdes Drive South is the only street linking the eastern and western parts of the city, and it carries thousands of tourists each year to Marineland. The city cannot function without this street, and the street will become unusable if the slide is not halted or at least slowed down. But the final decision may not be made by the state, county, city, or even the residents themselves. Mother Nature may have the final say.
That's our show this month. Thanks for watching. If you'd like more information about any of the issues discussed during this program, please contact Earth Alert at the telephone number listed on your screen at the end of the credits. Until next time, for Earth Alert, I'm Bob Pugsley.